When I was about 16 years old, I worked with this guy, and his name was Dan. And Dan was a really awesome bass player. He was about 6 or 7 years older than me, so he was like in his early 20s. One thing Dan could do really awesome was he could do that Steve Harris thing all day long, play all sorts of neat Steve Harris licks, and I really thought he was awesome. And one day at work, I was telling him about how I was working on the modes of the major scale. And Dan said, "You don't need any of that." He goes, "All you need to know is the pentatonic scale." And my respect for this guy just went into the dumpster after that, because I knew that there was a lot more than just a pentatonic scale out there. But as I matured as a player, I realized there was some wisdom in that, because when you look at the pentatonic scale, it can go over almost every chord. And I'm going to demonstrate that, basically. So we'll start with major. So I divide the modes into like two different sounds. So you've got the happy sounding modes, the major scale, the Lydian and the Mixolydian. And then you've got the minor sounding modes, the sad sounding modes, which would be the natural minor scale, which would be the Phrygian scale and the Dorian scale. So when we look at the happy modes first, so you've got the major. I'm going to play an A. We've got the major scale. We've got the Mixolydian scale. We've got the Lydian scale. We've got the major pentatonic. You notice that the major pentatonic has the same outside notes as those other scales. It's the inside notes that the major pentatonic leaves out. These notes in here that give them the different modes of the major scale their character. So the minor pentatonic is like the major pentatonic is a generic version of those things. In the same way, the minor pentatonic. So if we take the natural minor scale, and again an A, we take the Dorian scale, we take the, what was the other one, the Phrygian scale. You'll notice the outside notes of those scales are all the same. And that's why the minor pentatonic will work over any chord that those scales will work over, because it just skips out on the notes in the middle that make those scales have their own sound. And the interesting thing about the major and the minor pentatonic scale is they're actually the same scale. So if you have the minor pentatonic, the second mode of the minor pentatonic is the major pentatonic. So if I use C as my root note, that's the major pentatonic. But if I use A as my root note, now I have minor pentatonic. So really, he was right. All you do need to know is actually the minor pentatonic. And by knowing the minor pentatonic all up and down the neck, you'll also know the major pentatonic. So I wouldn't recommend that this is the thing to play over everything, but if you're in a situation which you're jamming with some guys, and maybe you're not sure of all of the intricacies of the chords that are being played, the pentatonic scale is a safe scale to play, right? Maybe if you're a more advanced player, you can pick out those in-between notes and you can figure out which scale you should play over. But a lot of times that's hard to do when you're unfamiliar with the material or unfamiliar with the other players you're playing with. And a lot of times what I would say is, know that pentatonic scale by heart, all over the neck and every key. You can get a lot of good books. I recommend the book called The Bass Grimoire. Is a good book, and it's just a book full of scales and some basics on music theory. And if you can get a hold of that and understand at least the first 20 pages of that book, you'll be all right. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.